everyone, it's Cheryl Millett here, live at 5 Mondays, and another week just full of various things to talk about. No question about it. It's almost like I can see how some people would need to come on a regular basis just to, well, news, just to give some news there. Hi, Natalie. And basically what I'm going to talk about today is just a few different things, but what I want to kind of instill in, and I have been kind of focusing on this, is just plain common sense and the simplicity that actually exists, but we've made things a lot more complicated and a lot more structured and process oriented. So we have to follow this, or no, there's this new way, and then there's this way, and then there's that way. And it's really, a lot of things are not really as complicated as it's being presented to us. And that, I think, is very critical here. Quite often, I mean, even from a nutrition standpoint, I remember looking at so many cookbooks. And over the years, you do it this way, you do it that way, you get all these ingredients, and then you didn't have them always at home. And I just not necessarily gave up. I just went, okay, it's making meals has got to be a lot simpler and healthy meals. So I decided to kind of work, and so this is the last handful of years, just to try to work with recipes to make them simpler and also just to work with what we have. And so healthy food can be fast food. Absolutely. You can make nutrition food in as little as 5 minutes if you really know and you have things there. And it's not that complicated. But I look at most cookbooks as gourmet. So you have that special evening, you have that time, and you have people coming over, you have company, and it makes it easy to do that way. One of the things I thought about years ago, but I want to bring up today because it made sense to me this morning when I use some of this magnesium, and usually I add warm water, and then of course there's the warm lemon water, but it was a little bit too hot today, and as soon as I went to drink it, I could feel the hot liquid down. It reminded me, and I wanted to bring it up today, that esophageal cancer is something, it exists. So the esophagus being here and joining to the stomach, and throat cancer as well. So I just want to kind of put it out there that we should not be swallowing. I mean, if it's too hot in our mouth, you burn your tongue, burn your tongues probably, or this was years ago, bit into something that was heated in the microwave and got a steam burn where the whole skin on the roof of my mouth actually peeled off. And I don't know if, hey Annette, hi Anthony, hi Ivan. I'm not sure if anybody here has experienced that and understand what the microwave is doing by heating from the inside out. It's really making the water extremely hot. But back to the idea of trying to avoid eating, especially drinking, coffees, teas, anything too hot, that would absolutely irritate, and then some, the tissues, the nice soft tissues that is in throat and then the esophagus. And that, I think, is so important. I know I don't drink coffee, and usually my water is warm and it's lemon, and I'm mixing it with the room temperature water to make it just right. But it was too hot, and I want to remind myself to actually speak about it today because of the cancers that are happening in those two areas. And that would surely, if you drink coffee, you can feel it. It might be nice and warm, but it's not healthy. So I just wanted to make sure I put that out there. And of course, toxins keep coming up in so many different avenues. It surely is, at the very simplistic level, a burden on our body. And if anything, certain toxins, be it, I'll bring up fluoride, will actually interfere and block, and so that it is not, the healthy things that should happen are not happening. It's just as simple as that. So the toxins come in, and they store, or they interrupt, they interfere with the different processes in our body, or they just store. And this is why when we think of neurological toxins, if you ever look up that, I really built that into my book, but just that alone, how many toxins actually interfere with the brain function. And it's a lot of them. And what you don't want to interfere with of all the things in your body is the brain, is your nervous system. It's without question, we can see some of the things if we just, it might have affected any of us here directly with people that we know: dementia, Alzheimer's, brain cancer. All of these things would absolutely have some sort of an element of the body and toxicity. No question about it. From all that I've researched, it is definitely a factor. And I think where we think of vaccines is it is just another source of toxicity in some cases for an infant who is a fraction of their size that they're going to grow into. And this is being, entering into the bloodstream, entering into their brain, and it absolutely can trip up, it can trip them up. And I don't know, I've probably said this before, when I lectured and it was a fella out of York University, a professor, and he did these day lectures, these, I don't call workshops, and I was speaking on nutrition, but I got to ask the teachers and the parents, and these are gifted children, if you ever had to get these gifted children tested for being autistic, what do you think? And every single one of them, so there's only several, but I had time during break, but every single one of them had said, yes, we've thought about that. So remember that the testing that we do for whether it's autism or it's depression or any of these mental illness, there's no blood work. There's no chemistry test other than they have determined that there's inflammation in the brain for some of this depression. But the idea is that labels aside, I believe that these children are very bright and very gifted, these autistic children, but they've just been tripped up by toxins, and vaccines may be one of them, might not be the only one. That's why we cannot really say vaccines cause autism, because it doesn't cause autism all the time. But it could be, for some children, a trigger, as well as other things can also be a trigger as well. So I hope that makes sense. Just wanted kind of to bring that up. The other thing I wanted to bring up is whey protein powder. Now, for some of you, you may know that I worked in food processing for 20 years, and I understood how things were done, from this making bread to the fisheries, to the farmed salmon, to chocolate bars, to the dairy, and others too as well. And whey protein powder is a waste byproduct of the cheese manufacturing. So there you go. That's what it is. It doesn't mean that it's not that good, but you see, whey in its liquid has been used in the past as a, I'm not going to say tonic exactly, but as a healer, a healing liquid. So like we would drink other liquids to help heal, and whey liquid would be used for the system. Very nutritious. Like milk is and I know a lot of people can't drink milk perhaps, but it is a whole food. Like egg is a very whole food, very nutritious, both of them. And unfortunately, some things might be tripping up our immune system, be it the big vaccines where they actually have these proteins in there. And I read a while back that perhaps all of these cat-dog allergies were to do with there was some protein, DNA, something in the earlier vaccines. And that is why there are some allergies in that kind of generation. And then they moved into having things like peanut protein or other things. So, one of the things the doctors, and I'm talking about hundreds of years ago, had talked about vaccines is the mere fact that it's kind of going directly into your bloodstream. It is not being allowed to go through the system and being picked up and selected, and maybe the immune system working at that level. No, it's going directly into the bloodstream, and that is a whole different ball game. There. But whey protein powder, back to that briefly, is not all whey protein is created equal. And some of it is because there's more processing involved, like the isolates. But a relative had me look at their protein powder the other day, Saturday, and it was good. It even said grass-fed, and it said undenatured whey protein powder. But basically, for a lot of people, for anybody really, you're going to try, if you can try it on an empty stomach, if you're already know that you're super sensitive to certain things like that, you may have to start with a small amount. And I would even start with a small amount anyway, just to see how these protein powders are. The unfortunate thing is they sell them in these big, huge tubs, and to actually try a little bit or one and then determine that it doesn't sit well. But think of grass-fed as being the source, cows grass-fed, and undenatured whey protein powder. And that would be the top of the line, less processed, more natural. And maybe next week I'll kind of do show and tell, which is I'm going to buy some raw milk and I'm going to make my own whey. And I'll show you just how that is done. I'll bring out the various different stages, and it's really, really easy. And it's actually, in a lot of ways, healthier than the dried powdered form, but we can all agree that making it into powder form is going to be so much easier for distribution, for storage. It's lighter, and so it'd be much better that way. And sometimes that's actually what we have to consider in how we're, because we are purchasing at a country, at a province, at a city. And so it for distribution and so forth, it's even safety factors, and they'll be there. Nervous system. So the good old nervous system, I can't stress enough that stress, from the stress side of the mental and the busyness, it's really about what stress is doing to the nervous system, and then how the nervous system would actually impact the physical body. So you can kind of see how the mind body would work here. So mind, be it the nervous system, you're thinking, just overthinking lots, and everything's firing. So you can imagine everything just getting all excited and firing and needing to fire and having to set up the hormones as such, whether we think of adrenaline as part of that. And so this nervous system is really the bridge between our mental and our physical body. So we have the feelings, the emotions. What kind of feelings and emotions are we having? And if we calm down, if we slow down our breath, then our nervous system won't be going crazy, firing, and it will be calmer. And what you're going to have is the best case scenario for sleeping and the best case scenario for your digestive system. So if you can slow down all that firing with either being mindful, some deep breathing is always good, but just get the breathing so then you're so relaxed. Leave all your work at the door, threshold, and come in and give yourself some space and time to actually get into leaving everything at the door. And then just be, so many little tricks here to share, but just, think about the food, think about what it tastes like, think about what it feels like, and absolutely no electronics. So that means trying to get away from watching television, watching things on the iPad, looking at your phone for text or emails. Just leave that entirely out. It's a practice thing, but this will be so much better for the nervous system, because that screen that people look at, that we all look at when it's the computer screen, and it's it's sending off messages to the body. It's getting it more excitable and things like that. And then of course your brain is working. What if you read that email that tells you something crazy, and then you're kind of flipping out or whatever it is, and so getting emotional, getting more passion, more feelings. So just leave the electronics out of the eating space. And there's just kind of use breathing for that. But I think that is so important, because you want to digest your food the best you can, and you do want to give your body absolute space and time to get relaxed more times during the day. So what about if you're eating 3 times a day, then you're going to have that 10, 15, 20, hopefully 30 minutes where you are relaxed. And so 30 minutes times 3, that's an hour and a half. You probably didn't do any relaxing, for some anyway. And if you're doing your meditation, great, then this is an hour and a half add-on, right? Add-on to your day, and every day. And hopefully you're eating 3 meals a day. I don't believe in snacks. I've said that before. I started a no snack movement. You're just constantly bombarding your digestive system with too much food. It doesn't give it the proper digestion. And you got the calories there, of course. And the other side of it is, you're just raising your blood sugar levels up in your bloodstream. So you can produce this insulin and overwork the pancreas and so forth. And you don't want to do that. So stick with 3 meals, and whatever those 3 meals are, just make them, they've got to be, nutritious for you. And that's something to work for there that way. And then, so I don't know if anybody has any questions about that. The last little thing I kind of want to bring up, and sometimes I just think about how many things will open up the can of worms, so to speak, because there is. You're either for or against in a lot of topics. And it's really, I think we really need to find the middle ground for all of this. I surely have with the vaccines, surely have, with fluoride. It's a little bit different. The idea is that fluoride exists naturally, and we shouldn't be ingesting it in our water, especially if it's only good for dental health. But trust me, it's not even good for dental health. It's not even part. You can't even find it's even a different structure, a different molecule, different element on the elemental table. It's different. There's fluoride, there's fluorine. Anyway, it's one of those crazy things. I just wish that could happen tomorrow. We just take the common sense of adding fluoride into water and ingesting it is almost insane when it's a toxic chemical and they're trying to toot it as good for your teeth. How does that come good for your teeth? And then when I studied on it for a couple of months, seriously, for my book, I couldn't find any evidence that fluoride is needed for the teeth. None, zilch. All I could find is, all right, they have this waste byproduct and potentially they're trying to get rid of it, and thought that, no, I'll get rid of it in toothpaste, something like that. They didn't want to pay the money. And, but, oh geez, I mean, it's not safe. To me, it seems insane. You got these dentists saying, look, they're getting fluorosis, which is modeling of the teeth of these young children who are consuming too much fluoride, because fluoride water, fluoride toothpaste, fluoride, and anything that's made with water. So kind of crazy. I mean, you can look all of this stuff up. But primordial sound meditation with headphones, like 432, Hertz has been a lifesaver for the last 5 years. This sound therapy, if you haven't already heard of sound therapy, research it. But think about it. Every sound kind of has a vibration to it, and it's vibrating. And I gave people one of the calls an exercise to do, which is where you would play classical music. at a decent sound, like a decent volume, and then, you know, drive your car. That's the best I can do. But if you don't drive your car, and if you have access to listening to it, just see how agitated, just see how it kind of just, I mean, just kind of gets you going and gets you pumped up, and, you know, just, and then play classical music. And so compare the classical and the rocks or something, whatever that is, or louder, and just feel the difference. But sound therapy is, yeah, there's so much to it. You don't have to look it up. I mean, from the singing bowls to, they're doing the bowls and, you know, tapping them, and you can feel the vibration in your body, to playing music that's just meant for you. So sound therapy is one of those things that can be part of the healing, you know, part of making us feel calmer. So it always gets back to that simplistic thing of calm, feeling peace. And that's basically where I have to say, for all the spiritual consultations I do, is about people finding peace at the end of the day, being more peaceful. Again, helps the nervous system, and then the nervous system is calmer, so it's not producing the crazy chemicals, and that would cause the body to not even digest. And this is kind of the goal. This is all I really can say, is to be relaxed in all the different situations. This is why this, you know, counseling becomes important, because it's about going through all the things that kind of trip each and every one up. Or, you know, we've had past things that happened to us, and it's built a fear, it's built anxiety with worry, and all of these things are making the nervous system fire, fire, fire. And maybe it's actually underactive. So there's overactive here that we've been talking about, but there's also underactive. And that's not ideal either. But, you know, the thing I was going to kind of bring up here is actually global warming. And it really is something that for many years I've been analyzing. And I know it sounds crazy, but it's just my way of thinking of things, is listening to what people say, going and reading the science about it, and coming up with my own ideas around it, my own questions, and then being able to ask those people that are in the know, and seeking them out, or they just kind of pop in, they're sitting beside me or something, and just kind of piecing things together. So I'm just kind of at that point where I really only want to say one word to tell you the truth. And it's not that we don't notice deviations, because there's usually some truth sometimes in the science of it. And science is interesting because it's just pure observation. And I've talked about this before, I believe. There's I'll look at, his guy was like up there with Einstein, and it was a book that I was recommended because I was talking and, you know, lecturing and presenting on things with respect to science. And this person said, I recommend you read his book. And it's called 6 Easy Pieces. And Richard Feynman, he's not around anymore, but he was a brilliant guy out of California and taught at Berkeley, I believe. It's been a while. But in his introduction, he talked about how science was so limited. It's like watching a chessboard. So the scientists, which is a name they came up with for those who were doing the work and come up with a nice fancy name. And he says in here, really, the scientists are watching a game of chess, but they're not playing. You know, they're not playing. They're just observing the moves. And in observing the moves, they would actually say, okay, we see this. But if they watched longer, and again, maybe it's partially to blame, we don't have the equipment, but if they were to be able to observe longer or see it in a different situation, in the case of chess, if you know how to play chess, a pond, I'll just use the pond, a pawn kind of goes straight, and then if it's going to take another pawn or another piece, chess piece, it would go diagonal. And if it makes it to the end of the board, then you can bring your queen back on board. You can bring another man. The pawn turns into something else. So he went through a number of chess moves, Richard, and gave the analogies of using chess as to science. So they observe initially something works as X, and they say, oh, like cholesterol. Cholesterol is found in the artery, so it seems to be the block, the thing that's blocking the artery. But what they didn't realize is the earlier stages means that you have something else happening. So the cholesterol comes in as to make the artery walls not split wide open. So as the artery walls are being, and this is a very simplistic view of it, but as the artery walls are kind of breaking down or being pitted by, in this case, maybe some toxins somewhere, and they're not in integrity. So they're starting to be affected, or oxidation, free radical damage, you could say. And so the cholesterol is really a survival mechanism. Like everything in our body, vomiting, diarrhea, hiccuping, coughing, these are all survival mechanisms. And the body really kind of works like that. And I never see anything different when I'm hearing, oh, the body is doing this. And going, well, why is the body doing that? There is a reason why the body is doing that. And just all the symptoms that we get tells us that there's something is going on. And so we can stop and assess the situation, preferably, and understand kind of what's going on. So I just kind of want to say about global warming from all the several years of, or maybe even further back, and learning, I have one word for it. And I would say the one word that kind of popped in this morning was scam. I can't say it any differently. It is earth changes and weather patterns have been around for however far back, and things do change, and we see change so often. They can't even predict the weather, and I want to believe that they can predict global warming. I don't think so. Anyway, that's just my opinion, but I think it was several years ago, and what I kind of saw kind of cropping up as a part of the global warming was actually business and big business and corporation. And that's usually, for me, a huge red flag. So health business has become somewhat, a business, a global business, and global warming, as they say, is actually, to me, I don't know, it's getting all people worried. And what does worry do? It gets all your neurons and your nervous system all frazzled and stuff. So I just kind of wanted to put it out there, because the global warming, for some reason, seems to be on the table like crazy. And I've seen so many people in the last several months, definitely even closer, get all uptight about it, get all worried about it, get all crazy about it. And really, I'm just going to say, you probably got better things to think about, and I would focus on that. That's what I would do. And that doesn't mean I won't recycle things, absolutely, and compost things, yes, but recycling, composting has been done for probably thousands of years. Reuse things, right? Reduce things. You don't want waste. I mean, that is absolutely something that we all probably got into with the luxury of buying food and that kind of thing. So that's where I sit with global warming. It's a scam, and I could probably give you I could probably work 3 days giving you all the evidence that, and even then I'd probably have to go search for it like crazy. But the idea, I haven't kept track about it. But just kind of sit back and just observe kind of what information is being shared, and just accumulate like I did. Okay, put it in your little global warming little drawer in the brain, and there you go. So that's all the stuff I wanted to talk about today. I'm glad. 30 minutes. That's really what I want to kind kind of get here. But really, Live at 5 is really about just coming on and sharing things, because I can't say enough that safety has been something that's been part of my core since I was very young. And that's really part of the things I like to share here. Is it awareness? Absolutely. I think myself and others have just been seeker of truth. Like we just want the truth, right? We just want the truth. And sometimes it's like buried under a ton of mud and not so easy to get at. And if so, then, we just have to buy some time or do a little digging. As they say, do a little digging and see what you kind of find out. But at the end of the day, I don't think we need to take sides. We just need to be, what's right here, which, what's important is safety. So safety is very important. Any questions, of course, any comments, like Ivan's commented, and I don't mind saying that if you see me kind of talking here, and there's no script, I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head here. Sometimes I have a few things on, like I write down because it happened 3 days ago, and there's a good chance I might not remember it. So I kind of just look at it before I come on here. But if there's too many people on here, sometimes I can't even see if you've said anything or any questions. And I just don't want to spend a lot of time looking here, and I got my train of thought going, and I just kind of want to get it out there. But any questions at all, any comments, they're all welcome now and even after. But other than that, what we want to do is just going to wish you best of health. And if any of these things were, or some of these, or any of them are interesting, and you think it might be interesting for other people, I don't even care if it's, they listen to it. It's not, to me, it's not about getting my face out there at all. It's more about sharing information. And as this information is shared, because I've done all the research, not all the research, I'm sure I could do a lot more for any one topic, but the idea is that more and more we're raising awareness. That's what we want to do in the middle ground, not left or right or wrong. It's just in the middle ground here, so that we can I don't know, Ivan, these are some frequencies that I came across: blood, adrenals, thyroid, bladder, intestines. Yeah, all the different hertz. And there's a couple of books. I mean, if you people are really book fiends, let me see here. Let me just think about it actually here. Healing is Voltage. That is a very, very good book. And Ivan, if you haven't got that one already, Healing is Voltage. Very interesting story for this doctor out of Texas. I connected with him when I read it, and that's probably about 8 years ago. But Healing is Voltage. That will kind of bring up how even some of these hertz that Ivan's bringing up would be important there. And there was another one that I want to talk about. This is more to do with feelings and emotions. Now, usually I have that book right here. I do. Power versus Force. That one is also, I think, an interesting book if you like to understand how feelings and emotions actually kind of give a level of vibration that they can actually measure. So that book is David Hawkins. Yeah, David Hawkins. And that's another good book. So lots of good books. And I don't always feel I need to read certain books. They're almost like a repeat, especially ones that go, yeah, here's all our nutrients, and here's what they do for our body, and that. So those kind of things, they're just not on top of my head. More about the interworkings of the cell and so forth. And I will definitely talk more about cellular function, especially from a metabolic standpoint. That's so, so important to actually understand how do we make energy. So I'll write it down, and next week I'll talk about that, because how we make energy, that's the key measuring stick that I use for all my clients. It's part of it. And that is usually an indicator that your lifestyle, even if you just went off course for the day, you know, the energy is not the same as it used to be, or there's a stress, or there's a trauma, or you're moving, changing jobs, and going to a wedding, and all of those things. And usually the energy, we talked about the nervous system going a little, and all kinds of firing happening, so it's using up energy. But anyway, if I could type that name in, please, thank you, when you get a minute. So Ivan's probably talking about the books. Ivan, are you talking about the books? Because if you're talking about the books, I can absolutely put the 2 book names down below. I think I can type while I'm down here, but anyway, I just want to, let's see, Healing is Voltage is the one book, and then the other book is Power versus Force, and that is by Hawkins. Yeah, so no, not Sue Hawkins. Don't you just love it when they put in other names for you, or spellings that you just don't want to put in? Yeah, anyway, so I'm going to wish everybody a great day, great rest of the evening, and the rest of the week. Be grateful for something. Just come up with something every day, and anytime that something happens, the driver pulls in front of you or something, just think about something that you're grateful for the day, and whatever that one thing is, you can put it top of mind for the day and just kind of repeat it, something like that. Anyway, have an awesome week. Best of health, everyone. Share this video if you think there's a number of nuggets in here, so we can raise awareness and bring more simplicity and common sense to the way we're thinking about health and well-being. So take care, everyone. I'm going to post this one also as well to YouTube. That is where my channel, where I'm just kind of posting them all, just putting them in there so that they're in there rather than in Facebook only. So that's very helpful. But take care, everyone. Any questions, any comments, feel free to put it below, and I always get the messages that way. Take care. Bye for now.